PATC Chalk Talk. Michigan State new head coach, hot board 1.0. Who do we got as the top three candidates? Who do you got as the top three candidates? We'll also be going through Brett McMurphy's Action Network bowl projections after week 2. Welcome to episode 308 of College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get to our top three. PATC's top three candidate for the Michigan State's new head coach. There we go. That's number 3, Pat Narduzzi. We have to have him on the hot board list. Some people would have him as number 1. He brings in so much credibility. He has the resume in the state of Michigan, his recruiting in the state of Michigan. He was the Michigan State's defensive coordinator for almost a decade. And in those years, Michigan State Spartans defeated their rival Michigan Wolverines more than Michigan defeated Michigan State. Pat Narduzzi had great success at Michigan State, and he's had that success as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Panthers. They've won 2 division titles as he's been the head coach. So we have to put him as number 3. A lot of people believe he would be a stabilizing force for that Michigan State football program. Not only for the football program, but for the athletic department. It needs it. So why don't we have Pat Narduzzi as number 2 or number 1 on the hot board list? Because we believe that maybe Michigan State is looking at more of a long-term solution. And there's a couple candidates out there I think should be favored slightly over Pat Narduzzi. The number 2 candidate we believe on the hot board list is Jason Candle, the current head coach of Toledo. Done an unbelievable job with that football program in the MAC Conference. They're favored to win it again here this year. Jason Candle, they got something like 53-32. They're expected to go in their 7th or 8th bowl game since he's been there. An incredible job. And he is a hot commodity. He is a hot commodity in the Midwest. He's going to get a Power 5 coaching job at some point. And you know what? If Michigan State offered Jason Candle, he would take the job. He would take the job, and that's important when you're setting up your hot boards. Jason Candle, we think he's ahead of Pat Narduzzi, but we don't think he's quite yet ahead of the gentleman that we have as number 1. The number 1, Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator, the receiver coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, Brian Hartline, we all know, he's an elite, top-of-the-line, elite recruiter. And he's been able to develop that massive talent under him. He's been able to develop an incredible wide receiver room in the last few years. Brian Hartline, we believe he is number 1 with a bullet when it comes to the hot board 1.0 now. There might be a change. If we get some intel, if there's some reporting or we get intel here at PATC that Brian Hartline isn't interested in the job because maybe he's waiting for that Ohio State Buckeye job to open up in the next couple of years, or Ryan Day gets the NFL itch. We don't know if Brian Hartline would be interested, but we don't know if he's completely ruled it out. Until we hear that, if we ever hear that, Brian Hartline has to be number 1 with the bullet on the Michigan State 1.0 hot board. Put down your comments and thoughts. Let me know how I got it all wrong, or if I got something right in our hot board list here at 1.0. Again, in a couple weeks, maybe next week. But eventually, Mel Tucker's going to hit the bricks. He's going to officially get fired somewhere around October 5th and October 6th. Then the hot board 2.0, 3.0 will get released. But right now, it's Brian Hartline with a bullet, number 1. Now, let's take a look at Brett McMurphy's bowl projections after week number 2. Now you say, Greg, why are you covering bowl projections? Because we always do, because we love it, because we love everything in college football. We cover it every single week so we can see the difference, the changes, who is climbing the bowl projection chart. Let's take a look. Bahama Bowl, Central Michigan versus Liberty. In the Cure Bowl, Coastal Carolina versus Toledo versus Jason Candle's Toledo. New Orleans Bowl, Troy versus Western Kentucky. Washington State versus Wyoming and LA Bowl. New Mexico Bowl, San Diego State versus UTSA. In the Myrtle Beach Bowl, Georgia Southern versus Rice Owls. Rice with an upset victory over the Houston Cougars at home. Rice now in the bowl projections of Myrtle Beach. Independence Bowl, the Texas Tech Red Raiders versus Arizona. Even though Texas Tech is 0-2, McMurphy has confidence that they can get to a bowl game. The Independence Bowl, the Boca Raton Bowl, according to Action Network's projections. Florida versus Cincinnati Bearcats. I think the Bearcat fans, they believe they're going to get to a higher bowl than the Boca Raton Bowl. We'll see what happens. The Frisco Bowl, Marshall versus Eastern Michigan. The Birmingham Bowl, Mississippi State versus Purdue. The Gasparilla Bowl, Auburn 2-0. Auburn versus first-year head coach Hugh Freeze at Auburn versus Greg Schiano's Rutgers, who are 2-0. 2-0. That offense is looking pretty disciplined, pretty good under Kirk Sharaka, the new offensive coordinator. Armed Forces Bowl, TCU versus Missouri. At Montgomery, Alabama, Appalachian State versus Navy. Appalachian State lost a heartbreaker to North Carolina here Saturday in 2 overtimes. In Mobile, Alabama, Southern Alabama versus Louisiana Tech. In Idaho, Boise, Idaho, the Boise State Broncos versus Miami of Ohio. In the Hawaii Bowl, UNLV versus SMU. In the Las Vegas Bowl, UCLA. Dante Moore just got his first start. They're 2-0 versus the Iowa Hawkeyes, who are also 2-0. UCLA versus Iowa. Las Vegas would be happy with that matchup. In the First Responder Bowl in Dallas, Texas, South Carolina versus Air Force. In the Quick Lane Bowl, Illinois versus Ohio. Now last week, Brett McMurphy Action Network had it projected that the Minnesota Golden Gophers were in the Quick Lane Bowl. They're not there after week 2. Where are they? We'll find out here in a little bit. Military Bowl, Syracuse versus Memphis. In the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Michigan State versus the Kansas Jayhawks. In the Holiday Bowl, the Miami, Florida Hurricanes versus the Oregon State Beavers. Both coming. Look, Oregon State looks great. And Miami, Florida is playing great. Holy smokes. Both those fan bases are probably hoping for more than the Holiday Bowl, but that's where the Action Network has them right now. In the Duke Mayo Bowl, Ole Miss, North Carolina State. Ole Miss, man, you got to get that running game going. I don't know what's going on there. They're 2-0, but the running game is a struggling. The Wasabi Fenway Bowl, Boston, Massachusetts. Wake Forest versus Tulane. So Brett McMurphy doesn't have Tulane as the G5 representative in the New Year's Six Bowl. So who does Brett McMurphy have? We'll find that out shortly. The Texas Bowl, Texas A&M versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State really hasn't settled on the quarterback, have they? And Texas A&M lost another big game here last week against Miami, Florida. Texas A&M getting better than the Texas Bowl? Probably not. Probably not. The Pop-Tarts Bowl in Orlando, Florida. Louisville versus UCF. Now UCF, the starting quarterback Plummer just got an injury. He's expected to be out a couple weeks. Will that affect UCF prospects here in the 2023 season? Pinstripe Bowl, Pittsburgh versus the Wisconsin Badgers, who took it on the chin against the Washington State Cougars. Wisconsin, Pittsburgh in the Bronx. Gator Bowl, Arkansas, Clemson. Alamo Bowl, Kansas State versus Utah. Next year, they'll be conference mates. This year, according to Action Network, they're going to be battling each other in San Antonio, Texas. In the Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Tennessee, Kentucky Wildcats versus the BYU Cougars. In the Sun Bowl, just like after week 1, same projections after week 2, according to Action Network, the Duke Blue Devils versus the Colorado Buffaloes. Holy smokes. In the Arizona Bowl, San Diego State Aztec versus Northern Illinois Music City Bowl. Look at this. What is this? The Music City Bowl in Nashville, Tennessee, December 30th. LSU Tigers versus the Minnesota Golden Gophers. That looks delicious to me. The Citrus Bowl in Orlando, Florida. Alabama versus the Maryland Terrapins. Terrapins get a January 1st game with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Woo! That would be great for Loxley. Great achievement if that can happen in Tampa, Florida. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish versus Tennessee. Orange Bowl, UNC versus the Penn State Nittany Lions. In the Cotton Bowl, Oklahoma versus USC. In the Fiesta Bowl, Oregon versus Fresno State Bulldogs. There it is. That's the G5 represented to go into a New Year's Bowl according to Action Network. Fresno State versus Oregon in the Peach Bowl. In Atlanta, GA, Washington Huskies versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. Wow, that would be an incredible game. But here it is, the college football playoff semifinal projections. In the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, the Michigan Wolverines versus the Florida State Seminoles. In the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, Louisiana, the Georgia Bulldogs, the two-time defending, reigning, undisputed national champions versus the Texas Longhorns. Texas is back. Now, I'm not going to step away from our projections, from our predictions during the offseason here at Peek Around the Corner. We had Penn State, Georgia, Washington, and Florida State, and we're not budging an inch. But here in Action Network after week 2, they got Michigan, Florida State, Georgia, and Texas. Put down who you believe should be your predictions on who's going to make the college football playoffs. There's a wide variety of teams this year, and there's other teams out there that are saying, why not us? Why not us? Why not us, says the Oregon Ducks fans. Why not us, say the Oregon State Beaver fans. Why not us, says the Penn State Nittany Lion fans. Why not us, say the Miami, Florida Hurricane fans. And on and on and on and on. And I can't wait till next year when we get to the 12-team expanded playoffs. Holy smokes. Well, this has been episode 308, and it has been fantastic. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.